Hearing news that yet another company has experienced a major security breach has unfortunately become almost an everyday occurrence. And the common reaction is for organizations to try and come up with a strategy that will protect their assets so that they do not become the next target. Hi, I'm Deborah Bulkley, Senior Managing Editor of the CSO Custom Solutions Group. As technology advances, so have security threats. How can CISOs adapt to better protect their enterprises? To get some answers, I recently met with Jerome Bakar, Vice President and General Manager of Actividentity, part of HID Global, a leading provider of identity assurance solutions. We discussed the challenges of the increasingly sophisticated threat landscape, what the frequent headlines about security breaches teach us, and how enterprise CISOs can improve their security.
So we have seen that traditionally enterprise were looking at security from a perimeter standpoint, meaning that the problem enterprise were addressing is really remote access. You had people traveling, salespeople or executive that work from hotel, and putting in place a strong authentication solution for remote access was kind of the big priority. And for everything else, passwords are still very much widely used. What we have seen with the recent events that have happened, a number of large companies in the industry, is that it's not good enough. Perimeter security is not good enough. You need to look at the issue of who is accessing what on your network in a more global way. That's where you need what we call identity assurance, being able to control who is accessing that resource. And the resource could be, a building, could be your CRM system, could be your source code repository system. Because there are more and more things online within the enterprise that needs to be protected. So I think what's new there is to have a more global approach as a strong authentication for the enterprise, looking at all the different assets of the enterprise and what is the right level of authentication system that needs to be put in place to protect them.
Okay, so as a follow-up to that, why are enterprises more vulnerable today, and where are these vulnerabilities?
Well, it's easy. Our world is getting more and more online. Everything is available, connected to a network somewhere. I mean, I'm not even talking about the cloud where we put more things outside of the enterprise, but even within the enterprise, all of the assets of my company, for example, are on servers somewhere. It's our customer list, it's a source code for software, it's our intellectual property. It could be the yogurt recipes or the know-how of the company. Everything is online. So because everything is online, the incentive now for hackers or criminals to try to get into your system, to extract this information and exploit it either for commercial purposes or in some cases political purposes is higher. So bigger reward, more people looking into it. We've seen an evolution in the hacker business from people doing it for fun or just to claim and make the headline as being the best at the job, to now it's a real business where you have crime syndicate getting into that, as well as very large government-sponsored organization, which sole role is to break into other government or enterprise network.
And those kind of things are in the news all the time, as we know. I mean, and as you mentioned, it's a big business. Mm-hmm. How much more sophisticated would you say these hackers are now, as opposed to maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
I think, first there are more of them, they are more organized, and a lot of information is also available on the internet on what can you do there. So in some of cases, these attacks are not very sophisticated technically, but they are getting better from a social standpoint, which is gathering information to make your vector of attack more credible. And then once you get in, you spread through the system and get as much information as you can in a certain amount of time.
So how can companies have a security solution that addresses the frequency and the global nature of all these threats that are out there?
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a couple of things that I think are going to help enterprise. The first one is the US government have spent a lot of money and a lot of resources over the past few years to put in place some standards for identity solution of their system. The US government is probably the most targeted organizations in the world by hackers for reasons as others. And since September 11, there have been a lot of awareness about improving the security of their system with what's called the PIV card. And so the benefit of that for the industry is that the government put in place a number of standards, and then there is a number of vendors within the industry that have built product to these standards. So now the enterprise have choices of taking different product here and there that have been vetted and approved by the government that works together because they are compliant to the standard. So that's one aspect. The other one is companies such as Actividentity have now taken some of this product resulting from this initiative and looking at making them more easy to use, easy to deploy. If I look at smart card or strong authentication deployment a few years ago, it's bigger, complex affair. I mean, we had a project lasting for a year, requiring a lot of consultant. Now, what we did is we took some of this technology and product and put them in appliances form factor, and a lot of improvement in terms of easy to be used, easy to deploy, and lower the cost of maintenance of this solution. So now you've got technologies that have been built to the highest level of security, government level of security, that are built in a way that they can be deployed by relatively small organizations without requiring an army of consultants to help you do that. The other thing is that we feel that there is no one system fit all. I mean by that depending on the resource you want to access within an enterprise, the authentication requirement should not be the same. That's what we call risk-based authentication. If you want to enable one of your partners to access your company portal to get the list of information about a new product that you are releasing, maybe a password is good enough. If you want your CFO to move money from one account to the other or prepare his board presentation, that's going to be another level of security. So the good news is that you've got out there some solutions that provide flexible method of authentication so that with one approach, one solution, you can address all these different needs in a consistent way.
Okay, so some companies are implementing only perimeter defense systems and OTP tokens. Mm-hmm. Are these adequate with the persistent threats that are out there?
Well, just look at the news and you have the answer to your question. Most of the companies that we've heard about, and one of them was, for example, Lockheed Martin a few months ago, have perimeter defense systems. They were using very good one-time password solution. And as you can see, it was not enough. There is ways to go around that and get into the network. And then once you are there, because only the perimeter was protected, you start moving laterally and get access to more secure servers and get access to confidential information. So enterprise need to rethink their security approach to a comprehensive authentication solution that look at the perimeter, but also look at the key servers, the key assets for the company, key applications, some of them in the cloud. So having a versatile authentication solution is extremely important there. In terms of the tokens themselves, there is nothing wrong with token. I mean, I think they were a very good solution, and they are still good solution for some specific use cases. But they have limitation, meaning that if you want somebody to authenticate to a large number of applications during his work days, if you use a token, he's going to have to type the one-time password multiple times. The ease of use is impacted. The end user is going to try to find ways around that, and then at the end of the day, the security is not as good as it should be. So if you move to a smarter type of device, like a smart card or a USB key with a secure element, or maybe a mobile phone in the very near future, then you don't have that because it's connected. It can be queried from authentication purposes. You can set some different rule, and then you have, on one side, higher level of security because the smart card chip is to build to a higher level of security than the token, but also better ease of use and convenience from an end user standpoint. So it's a winning solution for the enterprise.
Now, Actividentity is part of HID Global. Mm-hmm. So what kind of benefits can enterprises expect in their strategy for security?
That's actually, it's a very good question. What is interesting and what surprised me in the very first few weeks and months after the integration with HID is to find out how we were aligned from an Actividentity standpoint, an HID standpoint in terms of strategy. We were looking at converge authentication solution for the enterprise. Actividentity coming more from an IT safety standpoint, HID coming obviously from a physical access standpoint. But both companies have the same vision that to really have a secure solution for the enterprise, you need to look at the two aspects. And when you start looking at the two aspects, you can even have some high level of security because you can set some rules that, you know, if you are not in a given building at a given time, then there is no way you should get access to such or such resources. So convergence of vision. And the benefit for the end users as a customer is that, I mean, HID is the leading company in the physical access. You know, they are the number one in the world. They have a large number of customers. We've got a lot of partners, and we're very established there. Actividentity is a leading company in IT security, you know, for strong authentication. If you put the two together, now we can have a solution and people that understand customer problem for the two aspects. So it's not only the product, but it's also the people around it that make it really compelling. And I think that we are now in a unique position to bring to the market and to, you know, the CSOs of the world solutions that address both aspects with the right level of expertise. One thing that is striking is when you talk, you know, HID and Actividentity, we don't use the same words. So there is, when you talk to a physical access part of a company, you need to adapt to their thought process, their knowledge, and their vocabulary. When you talk to the IT side, it's different. With Actividentity HID today, we can talk to both sides in a way that they understand.
Great. So for the last question I want to ask you is, Actividentity is a global company. I know you travel all over the world visiting customers. What kind of advice would you give CSOs who are watching this video today?
I think the good news is that you've got solutions out there that I think are appropriate for the enterprise. My recommendation to CSOs is to look at solutions that provides, you know, flexibility in terms of the different level of authentication, and also that is standard-based, so that you can benefit from the level of scrutiny and testing done by certification authority and in some cases government authorities. Another key element that we didn't talk too much before is as part of this identity assurance solution, you need a very important element, which is the credential management. Once you've deployed these devices, being token, smart card, USB key, cell phone, you need a system that enable you to manage them if they are lost, if they are stolen, or if your role evolves and you need additional credential. That's a key element to think about. And it's also the element that enables the solution to be more future-proof, because with a strong credential management system, you will be able to evolve the content of this authentication device so that they can meet the needs of tomorrow. When you look at solution providers, you should look at the products they have today, but also the company vision, the strategy, because we are in a fast-paced, evolving world, and the safety issues of today are not the same as the one that will appear in 1 year, 5 years down the road. So the company, when you select a provider, look at that aspect as much as just the product as it is today.
Terrific. Great advice. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.